Welcome to the Breaking 90 podcast, where we talk about all things sustainable fat loss. We take people on 90-day journeys to creating fat loss forever. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Breaking 90 podcast. I'm back today with my co-host, Kelly Sarlo. We are two of the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for listening.
Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
New in your world?
New in my world. There's lots of different things. One thing I know people always like to hear stories about my son, Emerson. He's obviously one of the highlights of my life, so that his stories always come into my life. He always has funny stories coming home from school, and he said to me the other day, he was like, "You want to hear something funny, Daddy?" And I was like, "Yeah, buddy, like, let's hear what's funny." And he's like, "I'm gonna marry my friend Ben." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Why are you gonna marry your friend Ben?" "Because I love him." Well,
amazing.
It's a good reason, buddy, but you're 4. So let's pump the brakes and just see where this journey takes you. I just think it's funny with kids, like how simple everything is, right? Like, I know I like that friend. Well, he thinks he loves him, but I know I really enjoy this person's company. I love him. Love is what causes marriage, so I'm going to marry him.
It's a really great equation.
Yeah. I just think it's so funny. The stories that he comes home with from school are hilarious.
That's so sweet. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
What do you have for a topic for us today?
Okay, so I wanted to talk about trackers. This is something that's huge, at least in the Western world. We are tracking everything in our lives, everything we own, everything that's on us, everything about our body and our physical system. So I thought what would be really cool is to talk about what these trackers tell us, but also what they don't tell us.
Okay.
So I have a few different ones I want to present to you and sort of pull out some educational pieces, especially obviously related to health and fitness, that might either break some misconceptions for people about these trackers where they might be putting too much weight into them or too much importance, but also where can we enlighten them so that they feel empowered by what they're tracking.
Cool. Awesome. I think I know where I want to go with this, but you can lead it however you want.
Okay. I want to start with the biggest and often scariest one, and that is the scale. So what does it tell us and what does it not tell us?
Okay. So this is something that I want you guys to take into consideration with anything that you are tracking, not just the scale. We need to use it as a data point, as something to put a data point on a chart and then to graph our trend over time. And so what I mean by that is, with the bathroom scale, if you weigh in every single day, if you weigh in 3 times a day, you're going to get different weigh-ins. And so we need to make these factors as consistent as possible, but there's only so much consistency that we can control. So if you can control the time of day and what's in your body, that's what we can control. So do it first thing in the morning on empty, before you have any water or food, after you go to the bathroom. That is the most consistent weigh-in you will be able to get. But other things that are going to affect that are like eating late at night, or maybe you didn't have a bowel movement, or maybe you're sick, or maybe you're retaining water for any number of reasons. And we've talked about water retention lots, so I don't really need to dig into that too much, but it is a huge, huge factor on the scale, is when we're retaining water. So if you weigh in once a week, you might pick a day where your weight is high. You might pick a day where your weight is low. You might pick a day where it's perfectly average. But you don't know that if you weigh in one day per week. So I think if weight is something that you want to use as one of your data points to track, you need to do it consistently enough to graph a trend over time. So you put that weigh in on a chart. You weigh in 7 days a week, you're going to get 7 different weights probably. Look at the middle one, or take an average of the 7. That is going to give you a way more accurate representation over time of what is happening, versus just picking a random Tuesday to always weigh in on, because maybe one Monday you had pizza and another Monday you just had a salad for dinner. Well, neither of them are bad. One is causing you to retain a lot more water on the scale the next day, not real weight, water. So over time, that trend will tell you, that trend should not lie to you. Over time, you will see that you're trending in the direction you want to. And that is the main goal, not for you to by Friday, 2 days from now, or 3 days from now, lose a certain amount or gain a certain amount, because that's out of our control. The last thing I'd add to that is you are weighing yourself on a bathroom scale that costs you $20 at Walmart. Okay. So it can only be so accurate. If you move it 4 inches in your bathroom, it's probably going to give you a different weight. It's fine. Just step on it, write the weight down, move on. Don't let that affect your day. Easier said than done. I know.
Cool. I love that. And what I wanted to pull from that one in particular, that tracker with the scale, is it tells you right now what you weigh. It doesn't tell you why. It doesn't tell you the full story. And that's what we really wanted to get at. So the next one I wanted to chat about is food logs, and that can be tracking your points or tracking your calories, however you are tracking your food, your intake of calories. What does that tracker tell us, and what does it not tell us?
Okay. So first of all, most people listening to this that aren't Breaking 90 members probably have tracked calories. We don't track calories within our program because we've simplified from there, but there's lots of calorie calculators out there that say, Kelly, you should eat this many calories in order to achieve this goal. Keep in mind, these are generic formulas that are supposed to be good for the average person. Well, none of us are average. All of us are slightly above or slightly below average. So that formula isn't perfect for you. When you count your calories, there's tons of room for error. So any package in your kitchen that has a calorie count on it is allowed a 20% error discrepancy. So something says it's 100 calories, it can be anywhere from 80 to 120. Over time, that can add up. So once again, just like the bathroom scale, we need to use this as a trend of data over time, not as this is flawless, because it's not. There's no way you're going to do this flawlessly. Keep me in line here too if I'm going too far off course.
Okay. This is great information.
So I think counting calories is fine. It's tedious, but I think if you're looking at counting calories, or you're starting with us and you're looking at counting points, or whatever you're looking at doing, one way you should really consider doing this is by starting with a food log, an honest food log of what your normal looks like. Okay. So if you write out everything you eat for 3 days, 5 days, or a week, and it's really truly an accurate representation of where you're at now, then look for spots you can make small changes in the direction that you want to go, rather than taking a formula that is not designed specifically for you and it telling you this is where you should start. It doesn't know you. It's just guessing. Look at where you're at now, what direction you want to head, and where you can make small changes. That will give you a much more accurate sample of where you need to be headed with that tracking. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I wasn't anticipating you telling them how to use the trackers. So this is really cool because you're giving them really great tips, not only how to read into it, but what to do to help themselves in a better direction. So I think that's even more added value. I think it was important to note too that your calorie tracking system doesn't tell you how much you move. So it tells you what you're taking in and you're using the formula that you're talking about on average, but it's not telling you how you're balancing or using those calories, right?
Okay. That's really, really important that you brought this up. Actually, it's huge. One of the biggest mistakes that people make in calorie counting is adding your fitness to your calorie total. That is not going to be accurate. Whatever number you decided that you burned will not be accurate. There's going to be variances, just like we talked about. And typically, we will always estimate high. Our fitness bands will always estimate high. MyFitnessPal will always estimate high. So don't add the calories burned to what you're allowed to eat. What should happen over time is, if you're progressing at a good rate, keep it the same. If you're progressing too slowly, eat a little bit less, assuming you want to lose weight. If you're progressing too quickly, eat a little bit more. As long as you're fairly consistent in your day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month movement, that will balance out. Obviously, if you're like an ultra marathoner and you occasionally have a day of extreme movement, you're going to have to eat more on those days to accommodate that. That's different. But for the average person listening to this, as long as your weeks are fairly balanced, then don't factor that in. It should just be factored in as you adjust your calorie rate or your point rate up or down.
Well, I'm also thinking about the beginner who signs up for my Fitness Pal because a friend told them about it, and they start to enter in their food, and they're staying under the average of what they've been told to calculate for themselves, but they know nothing about the chart in terms of breaking down macronutrients. They know nothing about the percentages of carbohydrates to proteins and fruits and vegetables, right? Like, your calories number is not telling you the nutrition value unless you're educating yourself and digging into it to see, is this nutrient dense food or is it just calorie
For sure. And all of that will play a role in your satiety, how you feel, how you sleep, how you recover. All of that is important. How much muscle to fat ratio you lose or gain. All of it is important. But at the end of the day, if you're looking to lose weight, you need to create a calorie deficit. Remember that MyFitnessPal doesn't know how many calories you burn every day. So it's just estimating. You have to create an actual calorie deficit based off of where you are. If that's all eaten from chocolate, you will still lose weight. If it's all eaten from gummy bears, you will still lose weight. It's not going to look the way you want it to look, but that's an important concept to grasp.
What a great little side note to get in there. Okay. So I want to move to the next tracker, and that is our fitness trackers. And I wanted to break this down. So if we're looking at, for example, on an Apple Watch, our move goal, we're tracking how we're moving in a day. What's it telling us? What's it not telling us?
Cool. I really love the way that Apple created their move goal because they have so many different categories of movement that you can select and track. It gives you the ability to sit on a stationary bike, click that I'm stationary bike riding right now, and still accumulate movement points where something like a step tracker might not register that movement. Once again, it's not really important what the number says, it's the trend over time. So if it tells me in my workout that I burned 250 calories, that doesn't really matter. What matters is that in comparison to last week, to last month, to last year. Am I moving more, less, or the same? Use it as a trend, not as specific science, because it can't possibly get the actual amount of calories burned. It's only registering total movement. So, and your heart rate, which I guess, are you going to ask me about heart rate, or do you want me just to dig into heart rate now?
Right into it.
Okay, so that band on your wrist is not capable of getting an accurate heart rate measurement. It can get random samples that might or might not be accurate, but just like that $20 scale, it doesn't have the technology to be deadly accurate. If you want really accurate heart rates, you should wear a chest strap while you work out. It's going to give you a much better sample. But at the end of the day, unless you're a serious athlete, do you need that, right? Is it going to benefit you to know that your resting heart rate is down 1 or 2 points? Probably not. It's nice to see. Is it going to benefit you to be able to track your heart rate through your workout? Probably not. So the sample on your wrist is fine, but just keep in mind it isn't accurate, and it could be very inaccurate. There's been a lot of studies where people wear a Fitbit, Apple Watch, and a Garmin watch, for example, and get 3 very different responses. None of them are right or wrong. They're all working off different science that is as good as it can be for a $500 band.
Awesome. So I want to move into the activity tracker, right? This is the second ring on our Apple Watch. So what's it telling us? What is it not telling us?
Cool. So this is just total active minutes. And I should also mention that if you're wearing an Apple Watch, the Move Ring is only tracking movement calories. So if you, like, my move goal is like 880 or something, it doesn't mean I'm only burning 880 calories in that day. I'm probably burning 3,000 or 3,500 calories in the day, but it's only tracking calories where my heart rate is above a certain rate and I'm actually moving. So going up and down the stairs to the bathroom or doing house chores, it'll register that stuff. It's not registering the calories you burn just while sitting still, though. So the the movement ring, the second ring on an Apple Watch, and there's I know Fitbit has like active minutes too that are similar. It's measuring your time in actual activity. So where you are, it can tell that your heart rate is high enough to be considered activity. So if you put it into a movement mode, or even if it just detects that you've been like walking for 10 minutes consistently, it's accumulating those movement minutes. Same thing, if you want to track that piece of data, use it as a piece of data, not as did I do well or did I not do well.
This is one that I have issues with, because, and I'd love to hear your feedback. I can set my Apple Watch to I'm in a yoga class, and I click start, counts me down, and the yoga teacher shows up and says, hey guys, we're going to do a really gentle yin class tonight. You're going to be on the ground for the entire thing. We're going to do all, ground postures. That watch keeps going for a full hour, and I close my activity ring. Talk to me about what it's not telling me.
Yes, it's telling you. That's why I always say trend over time, don't focus on the specific day, right? So that day you got an extra 60 minutes of movement. Not really. You didn't really move that much. But if you accumulate that into your week, into your month, you'll be like, okay, this month or this week, I moved about this much. Trending over time, it's looking good. Then it's fine to look at that kind of thing. But we should never, ever, ever focus on day-to-day accomplishments or day-to-day failures, if you want to call them that, because that's not what adds up over time. It's consistency over time. So I agree with you. I don't even look at that green ring, to tell you the truth. I look at the red one. That's the only one I look at. And that's just me. You guys might like the green ring. Whatever motivates you to get your ass off the couch at night is the idea of this whole system. I like the red ring. I think the green one's kind of stupid. Devin and I can go walking together. We both have Apple Watches. We'll both get a different amount of activity minutes. Like, they're not perfect, right?
Yeah, and this is why I wanted to bring it up, because I think some people put so much importance or emphasis on these different trackers and think it's giving them the full story, right?
Yeah.
I think specifically, correct me if I'm wrong, this activity ring in particular, it can tell me or indicate to me the level of effort I'm making on a daily or weekly basis to be in some kind of activity. And that's really great information to show, like you said, consistency, but it's not necessarily tracking my intensity or
No.
the overall effort. Because if I do yin yoga 7 days a week and I'm consistently closing that ring, but I'm really not getting my heart rate up, or I'm really not even physically moving my body too much within that hour, what am I really doing for myself?
And it only tracks calories over a certain heart rate, I believe, or minutes over a certain heart rate. I'm not positive on that, so nobody quote me on that. But it's not tracking the difference between somebody sprinting and somebody walking.
Right.
And there is a big difference there.
Exactly. Okay, awesome. I'm excited for you to tear this one apart. Talk to me about what the stand goal or tracker is helping us understand.
Actually, I like this one better than the green one, to tell you the truth. I love that it prompts you every hour that you've been sitting still to just stand up and move. Like, it's like sometimes we just need that nudge to be like, oh yeah, it's been another 55 minutes. Maybe I'll go downstairs and get a drink of water and go to the bathroom and move my body a little bit. I think that's cool. It's not going to have the same impact on you as your red ring probably will, but I think it's a refreshing reminder. I wouldn't let it control your day, though.
Well, this is why I wanted to bring it up, because I would not disagrry for a second that the reminder on the watch is excellent. But if I'm just looking at my overall rings and the trend over the week, and I'm looking at that cycle going, oh my gosh, I'm being hard on myself. I haven't met it 5 days of the week while I was at work. What should I be reading into this or understanding?
So I think when you set these goals for yourself, you should be setting them based off of your less than average days rather than your exceptional days. So you have the ability. Apple now, they didn't used to, which was a big mistake. They now allow you to change your stand goal, which is very important, because most days I probably get 16 as my stand goal. But on a bad day, I might only get 11. So I failed that ring now. Like focus on this pushing you out of your comfort zone on a bad day or on your less than average day where you can control this. Don't just set it to 12 because it automatically sets to 12. Set it there as something to push you outside of your comfort zone. That's what all of these rings are designed to do, is push you outside of your comfort zone.
Cool. So the last fitness one I want to talk about is your steps tracker. What is it telling us?
Okay. Okay, I gotta write something down because there's something else I want to talk about. And you'll probably get to it anyway. So the steps tracker is the same thing. It needs to push you outside of your comfort zone. 10,000 is the number that's always thrown around. 10,000 doesn't mean shit. It's good for some people. It might not be good for you. But if you're a biker who bikes a ton, you might get no steps, or you might get 1,000 steps in a day. Does it mean that you're inactive or in poor health? Absolutely not. But that step counter, if that's what you have the ability to track, can still be beneficial for the cyclist, because we're just looking at it as a trend over time, right? If I'm trying to increase my total movement, well, then my 1,000 is my average. So let's see if we can bring this total week up to 8,000, right? If you are somebody who walks 10,000 a day and you want to get to 11,000, then you can look at that. But don't worry about what the rest of the world is tracking for steps. Worry about bringing your consistent average up over time, not up day to day to day to day to day, total a week or total a month, and try to beat it next month. That's what I would focus on there. And don't even put any emphasis on what that number is related to anybody else around you. That's the best advice I could give with the step counter.
Yeah, I love that, because I think about kind of a similar conversation with our activity tracker is like, it's not necessarily telling you the intensity either, right? Someone could walk slowly, which is great. We're not discouraging any kind of movement, but like if they're walking slowly, but they're getting their 10,000 steps, it's wonderful. You strap that onto a dancer who is doing an hour of practice. Those steps are intense because there's a total body movement that's happening as well. So take it all with a grain of salt, I suppose.
Even like people who work with their hands will often accumulate a bunch of steps that weren't steps.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter though, guys. Like, we're looking at our trend over time, right? It doesn't matter that you cheated an extra 1,000 steps, because it's only between you and you. If you compare to anybody else, it's not fair, because like maybe that person knit for 2 hours every night and they got an extra 2,000 steps because their hands were moving. Like, just use it as another data point for yourself over time.
It was a data point to teach me that I talk with my hands a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So do I.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the next tracker that I want to talk about is our planner or schedule, our calendar, however you want to word that.
Okay. And you're just talking about like anybody's schedule in general?
Yeah, because like, we do encourage tracking the way that you spend your time or the way that you're scheduling your time. So if we're looking at this tracking system of what our week looks like, in a snapshot, what is it telling us about ourselves and what is it not telling us?
I don't know if this is the exact direction you want to take this, but the way I like to do this is have like, so I schedule my days from 5:30 a.m. until 10 p.m. and every day has this, I call it my perfect day schedule. Okay. And I use it as a way to bring myself back. I don't use it as like, I have to be doing this at all times, but I can quickly glance at it and be like, oh, right now I'm wasting time on Instagram instead of being outdoors like I had in my schedule. To me, a schedule doesn't need, like, you don't need to follow it 100% of the time, all the time, in order to be successful, but it's trying to keep you on your path that you've decided is important. The same thing goes with scheduling in a workout Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You have to be ready to pivot occasionally and move that workout to a Thursday or a Tuesday. That's okay. It doesn't mean that you've failed your schedule. The schedule there is just to kind of keep you from taking all the different Y's on your road where you can go on a different path, right? Is that like, what do you think? Is there anything you want to ask or add there? Or?
Yeah, I think this one was the one I wanted to leave open to interpretation, because again, you've kind of taken this whole episode in a slightly different direction in terms of how to use the trackers, which I think is so valuable. So you're telling people how to look at their schedule to see, when they want to slide things in. I'm also looking at, can I look at this tracker over a week of how I've spent my time and see what it's telling me about what I value? what it's telling me about my responsibilities that I've taken on, because it can tell us that we've taken on too much. It can tell us that we have been avoiding our priorities, right? It can tell us that we say we value one thing, but we're doing something completely different. And I think this is one I really wanted to bring up to help people reflect on really and truly what they want. Because if we want change in our health and fitness, and we're, putting all of our eggs in one basket looking at the scale, then we're not really learning about what we want to be doing, maybe what we could be doing more of to influence that number. The schedule is also going to help us understand maybe why we're not meal prepping, maybe why we're not accessing healthy foods, even though we say that's something that we want to do when we look at our food tracker, right? So this schedule teaches us what we want, what we say we want, and if they're congruent.
Yeah, it's a great point. Great point. I want to circle just quickly back to those fitness bands, because another thing they often track is sleep, and I think it's important to quickly touch on that.
Sure.
What they are typically measuring is heart rate and movement. Keep in mind, we know that the heart rate isn't precise on these. When it gets it from the wrist, it can't be. And if it disconnects from your wrist, like it pulls away for a second, it's getting inaccurate heart rates. You'll notice sometimes during exercise, if it pulls away from your wrist, it'll pause the workout, which is really frustrating, or it'll lock you out of your screen, or like so it's not always making a perfect contact, especially in sleep when we're rolling around. And total movement. Some people move more in sleep, some people move less in sleep. That doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a better or worse quality of sleep. So use that once again as a trend over time to track how your sleep is progressing, changing, getting better or worse. Don't worry about like that you both laid in bed for 8 hours and one of you apparently got 4 hours and one of you apparently got 7.5. That doesn't, like, these it's $100 piece of technology probably that you're looking at. Like it's not able to actually read into your sleep depth. So that's just one other thing I wanted to add to those fitness trackers.
Awesome. I didn't even think about the sleep one. Okay, I know you're pressed for time. I want to ask you about the last kind of tracker that we sometimes use, and that's pictures. What is it telling us? What is it not telling us?
Cool. I'm gonna group pictures and measurements, body measurements. So progress pictures are awesome over time. They don't lie as much as the scale can. You should still compare several pictures over time. So instead of looking at January to February's picture, look at December, January, and February. Look for differences. Look at 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. 1 month, you might be a little bloated. You might be retaining some water. You might not look the way you're like, oh man, like I regressed this month. But it could have just been that day. It could have been that day that you were bloated. You were retaining some water. But once again, over time, pictures should not lie. If you put up 12 pictures 1 month apart on each picture, they should not lie if you are moving in the right direction or not. Body measurements, the same thing. The only big difference with body measurements or calipers is if you're doing it yourself, you're probably not doing a perfect job. If you have a coach doing it for you, they're probably not doing a perfect job of getting the exact same spot every time. I like to make a mark on the wall, step up beside that mark and measure that point on your body, or landmark a freckle or a belly button or something on your body that you can constantly measure the same spot, because being off by a half inch up or down on your body part will make a massive difference in the circumference. But write the measurement down. Don't focus on the difference between January and February. Focus on the difference in trend over time between January, February, March, April, and May. It should once again be moving in the right direction. You might have the random measurement where you're like, oh yeah, I must have hit the wrong spot on my body. There's no way I gained 2 inches on my leg for that month. That's okay. We're looking at that trend over time.
Amazing. Okay, so the way that I wanted to wrap this whole thing up was being able to say, and actually this is the tip that I want to leave people with when it comes to trackers, is given everything that we've talked about, all the different types of trackers that you can use to measure progress, quote unquote, measure progress, because as you've said, they're all relatively inaccurate and we're looking at averages. None of them will tell you how you feel. And this is something that people don't necessarily take into consideration. We're looking at numbers, we're looking at trends, we're looking at, is it progress, isn't it? Is it the same progress that I wanted to make versus what's actually being shown to me? And we forget to ask the question, but what do I feel? How do I feel in my body and with the way that I'm able to now move and experience my life? And I want people to remember that no matter what tracking system you're using or how many you're using.
That's awesome. And really, like, you can add a journal, a daily journal, as a form of tracking and reflect back on it. How did I feel a year ago? How did I feel a month ago?
Yeah.
Those are huge differences that no other number will be able to tell you.
Cool. I love that you tacked on with another tracker. That's great.
Everybody's like, I'm not adding any more trackers to my life.
Wicked. This was fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Kelly. Thank you guys for listening. Like always, please share this with your friends, rate us, comment, reach out to us if you have questions or topics you want to hear about in the future. We appreciate you guys listening. We appreciate you guys being here. Take care.